What happens when a heist so audacious, so meticulously planned, goes awry in ways no one could have thought? How does a robbery of 26 million pounds in gold, diamonds, and cash, equivalent to 116 million pounds today, unravel in a web of murder, betrayal, and a so-called curse that claimed the lives of anyone who dared to touch its spoils? Was it greed, fate, or something darker that turned the Brinks-Mat robbery into one of the most infamous crimes in British history? And why, decades later, does the legend of the Curse of Brinks-Mat still send shivers down the spines of those who remember it? On a cold November morning in 1983, a group of 6 men walked into a warehouse near Heathrow Airport, London, with a plan to steal £1 million in cash. What they stumbled upon, however, would change the course of British criminal history forever. Instead of a modest haul of Spanish pesetas, they discovered 3 tons of gold bullion, along with diamonds, platinum, and traveler's checks, worth a staggering £26 million, equivalent to £116 million in 2023. This was the Brinks-Mat robbery, a heist that would become known as the crime of the century. The robbery was not just a story of greed and audacity. It was a tale that would unravel over decades, involving murder, money laundering, international intrigue, and a so-called curse that seemed to follow those who touched the stolen gold. From the initial break-in to the dramatic trials, the involvement of London's criminal underworld, and the mysterious disappearance of most of the gold, the Brinks-Mat robbery remains one of the most fascinating and complex crimes in British history. This is the story of how a simple robbery turned into a saga that will leave an indelible mark on the criminal landscape of the UK. The Brinks-Mat robbery took place at 6:40 a.m. on November 26, 1983, at Unit 7 of Heathrow International Trading Estate, a warehouse operated by Brinks-Mat, a security company. The robbers, led by Mickey McAvoy and Brian Robinson, had inside help from Anthony Black, a security guard who was also Robinson's brother-in-law. Black provided the gang with key impressions and details about the warehouse's security measures, making the heist possible. Once inside, the robbers immediately seized control, restraining the employees present. To intimidate them into compliance, the gang doused them in petrol and issued a chilling threat. If the staff did not reveal the vault's combination numbers, they would be set alight. Faced with such horrifying coercion, the guards had little choice but to comply. The robbers expected to find around £1 million in Spanish pesetas, a significant sum, but nothing compared to what they actually found. What they discovered was far beyond their wildest dreams. They stumbled upon 3 tons of pure gold bullion, neatly stacked outside the main vault in 152 bars, contained within 76 cardboard boxes. To their astonishment, this gold, which had been temporarily stored at the warehouse before being scheduled to transfer to Hong Kong the following day, was an unexpected windfall. In addition to the gold, the robbers also looted platinum, 1,000 carats of diamonds, and $250,000 in traveler's checks. The total value of their haul amounted to £26 million, an astronomical sum in 1983, equivalent to £116 million today. The robbery was executed with military precision, but the sheer scale of the loot created immediate problems for the gang. Gold bullion is not easy to dispose of, and the gang quickly realized they needed help to launder their newfound wealth. This is where the story takes a darker turn, as the robbery set off a chain of events that would involve some of the most notorious figures in British criminal history. The immediate aftermath of the robbery saw the gang scrambling to offload the gold. McAvoy and Robinson turned to their criminal associates for help, including Brian Perry and George Francis. Perry, in turn, enlisted the help of Kenneth Noy, a skilled fence with expertise in melting down or recasting gold. Noy mixed the stolen gold with copper coins to disguise its origin, making it easier to sell on the legitimate market. However, the gang's activities did not go unnoticed. Just 2 days after the robbery, an unsuspecting couple living near Bath, Somerset, noticed something unusual at a neighbor's property. They observed a white-hot crucible burning intensely inside a garden hut. Given the scale of the robbery and the sudden appearance of this high-temperature smelting equipment, the couple grew suspicious and promptly reported it to the police. But the tip-off was not followed up immediately. This failure to act would prove costly, as the gold was already being processed and dispersed. However, when the authorities arrived, they astonishingly refused to investigate further, claiming that the property fell just outside their jurisdiction. They assured the couple that they would pass the tip to relevant authorities, but no immediate action was taken. The couple was never asked to provide a statement or testify in court, and no official explanation has ever been given for why law enforcement failed to act on such a crucial lead. Despite this missed opportunity, police detectives quickly made significant progress. Their breakthrough came when they discovered that Anthony Black's sister was in a relationship with Brian Robinson, one of the masterminds behind the robbery. Under pressure, Black confessed in December 1983, admitting to his role in the crime. He revealed that he had aided and abetted the robbers by providing them with impressions of the warehouse key, as well as detailed security protocols. With Black's confession, police swiftly identified and arrested Brian Robinson and Mickey McAvoy, both of whom were caught just 10 days after the robbery. Anthony Black was also arrested, but later acquitted. Despite these arrests, the stolen gold had already started moving through the underground financial network. Kenneth Noy, a criminal with extensive experience in smelting and laundering, was brought into the operation. His method was sophisticated. He melted the bullion down and recast it into new bars while mixing in copper coins to alter its composition, making it harder to trace. In January 1985, authorities began surveilling Noy. Their operation, however, took a tragic turn when Detective Constable John Fordham, an undercover officer dressed in camouflage and a baklava, was spotted hiding in Noy's garden. Mistaking him for an intruder, Noy stabbed Fordham 10 times, killing him. At trial, Noy claimed self-defense, arguing that he had been attacked first. The jury ultimately acquitted him of murder. Despite this, authorities remained focused on dismantling the laundering operation. In 1986, Noy, Brian Reeder, Garth Chappell, Terrence Patch, and others were charged with handling stolen gold. Meanwhile, another player, John Palmer, a jeweler and bullion dealer, was arrested after police raided his premises in Bath and found a furnace. However, Palmer was on holiday in Tenerife at the time and later cleared of all charges, claiming he was unaware the gold was stolen. The laundering scheme extended far beyond the UK. John Fleming, another suspect, was tracked across multiple countries before being deported from the US to the UK in 1987 and charged with handling £840,000. Despite a 3-year-long investigation, his case was dismissed within 25 seconds due to a lack of evidence. By 1988, law enforcement had gathered enough evidence to charge 9 people, including Brian Perry and solicitor Michael Relton, for conspiring to handle stolen goods. Relton was accused of moving £7.5 million into Swiss and Liechtenstein accounts, funneling it back to London's Docklands property market. One major figure, Gordon Perry, managed to evade capture until 1989, when he was arrested in Spain. He was extradited in 1990 and faced trial for laundering £16 million. By 1991, a new wave of trials ensued, implicating Perry, McAvoy's first wife Jacqueline, Patrick Clark, and Jean Savage. McAvoy's ex-wife was accused of benefiting from a house he had purchased for her using laundered money, and though no criminal conviction was secured against her, her house was seized by authorities. The Brink's-Mat robbery, one of the most infamous heists in British history, left a trail of convictions, mysteries, and violent repercussions that continued to captivate the public imagination. At the heart of the operation was Anthony Black, the insider who enabled the robbery. Black's personal ties to one of the criminals led him to cooperate with the gang, earning him a 6-year prison sentence. His role, though seemingly minor, was crucial to the gang's success. Meanwhile, the masterminds behind the heist, Mickey McAvoy and Brian Robinson, faced the full force of the law. Tried at the Old Bailey in December 1984, both were sentenced to 25 years in prison. However, their time behind bars was cut short, and they were released in 2000 after serving 16 years. The aftermath of the robbery saw a web of convictions as authorities worked to dismantle the network responsible for laundering the stolen gold. Kenneth Noy, a key figure in the laundering operation, was convicted in 1986 and handed a 14-year prison sentence, along with a hefty £500,000 fine and £200,000 in legal costs. Noy served 7 years before his release in 1994. Garth Chappell and Brian Reeder, also central to handling the stolen gold, received 10 and 8 years in prison, respectively. Matteo Constantino, though acquitted of handling stolen goods, was convicted of VAT fraud and given a 12-month suspended sentence. The legal net also ensnared solicitor Michael Relton, who was sentenced to 12 years for laundering the robbery's proceeds, while Kathleen McAvoy received a more lenient 18-month suspended sentence despite her involvement. The convictions didn't stop there. In August 1992, Gordon Perry, Brian Perry, Patrick Clark, and Gene Savage were sentenced for their roles in laundering the stolen gold. Perry received 10 years, Perry 9, Clark 6, and Savage 5. Tragically, Brian Perry's story took a dark turn when he was shot dead just months after his release in 2001, adding to the string of violent deaths linked to the Brinks-Matt case. This so-called curse of Brinks-Matt became a grim legend, with many in London's criminal underworld believing that those handled the stolen goods were marked for violent ends. The curse seemed to follow anyone connected to the heist. Charlie Wilson, a key figure in the Great Train robbery, was suspected of laundering Brinks-Matt gold. But after losing £3 million of the investors' money, he was shot dead in Spain in 1990. Nick Whiting, another associate, was found dead the same year, shot and stabbed. Donald Urquhart, who helped launder the gold, met a similar fate in 1993, gunned down in a busy London street. Even Keith Headley, a suspected money launderer, wasn't spared. He was shot dead on his yacht in 1996. The violence didn't end there. Sully Nahom, a jeweler linked to the Addams family and the Brinks-Matt gold, was shot outside his home in 1998. His associate, Gilbert Winter, had vanished earlier that year, and both were believed to have been killed over a drug deal gone wrong. George Francis, another figure tied to the gold, was shot dead in 2003, years after surviving an earlier attempt on his life. And in 2015, John Goldfinger Palmer, a notorious figure suspected of melting down the stolen gold, was assassinated in his own garden. The Brinks-Matt robbery wasn't just a crime, it was a curse. Those who touched the gold seemed destined for betrayal, violence, and death. The legend of the curse grew with each body that fell, a reminder that in the criminal underworld, no fortune comes without a price. Despite the convictions, the recovery of the stolen Brinks-Matt gold proved to be a near impossible task. Michael McAvoy, one of the masterminds behind the heist, tried to strike a deal with authorities by offering to return his share of the loot in exchange for a lighter sentence. But his plan crumbled when it became clear that the money had mysteriously vanished. A record £2 million reward was offered for information leading to the gold's recovery, but only £1 million worth of it was ever found, stored at the Bank of England. By 1996, about half of the stolen gold, smelted, recast, and laundered, had quietly re-entered the legitimate gold market, some even making its way back to Johnson Matthey, the very company it had been stolen from. The rest, it's believed to have been buried or hidden, leaving behind a mystery that continues to captivate treasure hunters and crime enthusiasts alike. The financial fallout from the heist was staggering. Lloyd's of London, the insurer, paid out a record £26 million in claims. Authorities froze millions of pounds worth of assets, including luxury homes, a Kansas oil well, and other high-value properties. By 2004, around £25 million had been recovered, but the full sum remained out of reach. McAvoy was ordered to repay nearly £27.5 million, while John White, who had been acquitted of the robbery, was implicated in its planning, was held liable for £26 million. Even his wife wasn't spared, as she was ordered to repay £1.1 million. The long arm of the law reached far and wide, but the gold itself seemed to slip through its fingers. Adding to the intrigue were the counterfeit gold bars discovered in Vienna less than a month after the robbery. Austrian police arrested 5 men, 4 Italians and an Austrian, at a hotel where they found 10 bullion bars bearing the exact serial numbers of the stolen Brinks-Mat gold. But upon closer inspection, the bars turned out to be a clever fake, gold-planted tungsten. The men had planned to pass them off as the real stolen gold, but how they attained the genuine serial numbers remains a mystery. The discovery only deepened the enigma surrounding the heist, raising questions about who else might have been involved and what other secrets the stolen gold might still be hiding. The Brinks-Mat robbery didn't just leave a mark on the criminal underworld. It sent shockwaves through the legitimate financial sector as well. Less than a year after the heist, on September 30th, 1984, the banking and gold trading arm of Johnson Matthey collapsed. The Bank of England stepped in to take over the failing institution, aiming to protect the stability of the London gold markets. The bank had incurred catastrophic losses of over $300 million, thanks to a series of massive, questionable loans made to fraudsters and insolvent businesses. The fraud squad was called in to investigate, uncovering the serious gaps in the bank's records and raising suspicions about certain clients. The collapse was a stark reminder of how deeply the Brinks-Mat robbery had destabilized not just the criminal world, but the financial systems it touched. The Brinks-Mat robbery remains a story of greed, violence, and intrigue, a tale where the line between crime and punishment blurs, and where the stolen gold continues to cast a long, dark shadow over all who touched it.